if you see the news cycle over the last 1 week or roughly about 8 or 9 days, maybe about last 10 days, then the attacks on the Ram Navami processions simultaneously in 7 different places, Khargon, Karoli, then Jahangir Puri, and has just been reported the demolition of a temple which has happened in Alwar in Rajasthan, has somehow brought up this conversation once again. That was the idea of India being a majoritarian country, a horribly peddled myth. And joining me is Swapan Dasgupta, one of India's leading public intellectuals, has been a parliamentarian, member of the BJP National Executive, but I always describe him most as a journalist. Swapan Dasgupta, Swapanda, thanks for joining us. Now, do you think the events of the last 10 days make us think and wake up about this whole majoritarian myth? Because, you know, people are being targeted and stoned for playing provocative music, for simply asserting their Hindu identity. Do you think this, things will change after what's happened in the last 10 days, the way the media has reported it?
Well, Arnav, the majoritarian concept as it is applied in India is centered on 2 basic premises. The first is that the institutions of this country have been skewed to favor only the majority, that is the Hindu community, and actively discriminate against the minorities, particularly the Muslims. The second issue, which flows from the majoritarian discourse, the so-called majoritarian discourse which is there, is that it is fine for minorities to assert their identities, but it is not okay for anyone to claim he or she or any particular group to assert their Hindu identity. These are the central premises on which the majoritarian discourse has operated in India, and we find its manifestation once again in these attacks centered on Ram Navami this year. And we can see it happening over and over and over again, whether it is the Kashmir files, whether it is Ram Navami, whether it is something else. It's exactly the same discourse which is played out over and over again.
Yeah. You know, the last time you were on Republic, Swapanda, you spoke about the selective silence of the lobby on the Birbhum massacre. We spoke about it. And this week, we've seen these falsehoods, such as Muslim properties targeted, Muslims targeted, Muslim properties raised, broken down, bulldozer culture of a majoritarian government. Of course, it's politically motivated. What's the correct counter for that?
Well, firstly, I think it is spurious, the argument. I mean, I think if you look at Khargon, just as an example, you'll find that 85% or somewhere around 80 to 85% of those who were affected by the demolitions happened to be Hindu. It was only 15% who were Muslims. Jahangir Puri was a little different case. But here again, the initial bulldozer operation was targeted against those who were sort of encroaching on property, and there have been a series of litigation, etc. But none of these can take away from the fact that the central issue today has been the attacks on the Ram Navami processions in, as you said, 7 different parts of India. And we've seen very little condemnation of that. What is being condemned is something else. And what is being totally glossed over is the fact that today, on a very, very auspicious day of the Hindus, there were people who decided that it is best to stone these processions. This stoning epidemic, which began in Kashmir, which took on another form during the Shaheen Bagh agitation, has now become almost endemic. And it is some sort of a intention of some people to show that there is some sort of a Muslim intifada which is going on in this country. And this sort of a Muslim uprising against an iniquitous and communally motivated Narendra Modi government. And that seems to be the main objective of these people. Hence, there is, to my mind, two things. One is there is a justification of what is being done in terms of the stone pelting, and there is a suggestion that there is disproportionate, excessive force which is being used, which is targeting the Muslim community in a vengeful and vindictive way. And I think this skewed propaganda has got to be challenged. It's got to be challenged for various reasons, because India is not institutionally biased in favor of one religion or the other. Political parties may derive their strengths and their weaknesses from the support or non-support of the other, one or the other. But when it comes to civil unrest, I think we have seen today that there must be a certain even-handedness which the law and order and enforcement agencies must show. And when they show that, this is what happens. The same lobby gets to work and say, see, we told you so. We told you so. But there is that underlying thing that the stoning is actually very good because it's actually a manifestation of a political uprising.
Now, there has been in the past a celebration of the accepting, non-reactive, sage-like, all-accommodative, calm, almost demure Hindu identity. You know, that is seen to be, it is said, that is Gandhian Hinduism. That is Hinduism as it ought to be, right? And whereas there is a deriding of those who wear saffron, who would carry out a Ram Navami procession, saying that is the bad Hinduism. So there's like good Taliban, bad Taliban, there's good Hindu, bad Hindu. You know, many people would say Swapan Dasgupta is a bad Hindu, right? So
that's their prerogative to say whether I'm a good or bad Hindu.
This slotting, my question to you is, how would Hindus in the future, in your view, respond to this slotting?
Well, I think, about more than a century ago, more than 100, I think around 110 years ago, Swami Vivekananda decried, and he said there is this caricature of what he called the patient Hindu and the mild Hindu. And I think that what he decried then as a caricature has now come over and is saying as a model, as turn the other cheek if you're attacked. Today, that is no longer possible. And part of the reason why there has been an awakening is not only caused by domestic factors, but it's also caused by international situation, where there is seen a degree of radicalization and a reaction to that radicalization, which is happening in India also, where there is an assertion that no, there is nothing wrong in asserting your Hindu identity. I would say, as long as it's not necessarily targeting anyone else. But the whole point is that everyone would say that, look, Hindus cannot behave like this.
Yeah.
Hindus have no right to hit back.
Yeah.
Hindus have only the right, the privilege of being able to get slapped.
Yeah.
So when Kashmir Files comes in,
yeah,
it's again the same story.
Exactly.
Oh, no. The Hindus can't hit back. The Hindus cannot be shown to be suffering.
Yeah.
The Hindus cannot be a model of victimhood in any way.
Yeah.
This caricature, this very skewed, I would say almost an obscene manner, has led to a deep and a very vicious reaction from most ordinary people in this country, who are saying, look, this form of skewed secularism is not acceptable to us.
Yeah.
Where we are permanently put down,
yeah,
and where we have to be the tolerant person,
yeah,
whereas any other intolerance is actually condoned.
Yeah.
Now, to my mind, today, the idea that Hindus must be at the receiving end and therefore passively and meekly take whatever is coming to them is no longer accepted.
Yeah.
There are issues which they protest against when we talk about the infiltration of Rohingyas. Now that, if you happen to be in West Bengal,
yeah,
you will know that that's a subject of ordinary, everyday conversation of
yes,
people saying, look, Rohingyas are coming all over the place. There are Rohingya bastis which are springing up. They are coming in by boat from the Sundarbans. There is all that. Earlier, there was a talk about when infiltration from Bangladesh was happening. That has come down somewhat now. But it was there, but you couldn't talk about it. You couldn't talk about the fact that that when it comes to enforcing the law, there are parts of the country which are basically no-go areas for the law enforcement agencies, where you don't have to wear a helmet if you're driving a motorbike.
Yeah.
Now, to my mind, these sort of no-go areas cannot be allowed to exist in this country,
Yeah.
whether they're Hindu, whether they're Muslim, whether they're anything else.
Yeah.
And if you protest about that,
Yeah.
at the risk of being called communal,
Yeah.
I think it's worth being called communal for that. Because I think there is a certain even-handedness which is necessary in running a modern republic. And I think that even-handedness is being compromised
Yeah.
by saying, no, you must still bend the stick generously to favor one community
Yeah.
because they happen to be minorities.
Oh, yeah.
And regardless of what else they do.
Yeah.
So this form of double standard, selective indignation, I think has no place anymore. And I'm glad that more and more people are asserting that fact.
Well, I think fantastically put there. Swapan Dasgupta saying very clearly that the Hindu community, Hindus don't need to be presenting themselves as constantly suffering, all accommodating sponges. That is no longer required. Swapan Dasgupta, thanks very much for starting up our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.